how is the most thinnest person in the world, thinnest people in the world, but some of them is not by choice. It's diseases that they make them thin.
Being fat by her friends.
It is not a game. It is not a joke.
So
I talked about before, she did try to bounce back and get out of the state that she was in, but by the time
ask yourself this question: how is the most thinnest person in the world? But in this video, we'll be revealing the top 20 thinnest people in the world. But some of them is not by choice. It's diseases that they make them thin. But some of them, they be fasting, they end up being thinner than what they wanted to be. Anyways, you know what it is, your boy Bandila back again with another video. Let's just get to the video, no nothing much to say.
20 thinnest people in the world. Number 20. Tom Staniford. Now, as I teased in the intro, not everyone who is super thin is that way because they want to be super thin. Sometimes the body just has a way of making you nothing but skin and bones, and so you have to adapt to it, such as with Tom Staniford. Tom Staniford suffers from a rare genetic mutation called MDP syndrome. The disease hinders his body from storing fat beneath the skin. And to show you just how rare the condition is, he is one of 8 people to have it.
8?
But that's not the only condition that he has to deal with. Tom would also eventually find out that he had type 2 diabetes, and thus had to further watch what he ate so that he could stay healthy and not worsen his condition.
And various other costs incurred from sort of physio or...
Now, to those of you who are wondering why this condition is so bad, well, that's because whether people like to admit it or not, you need some fat on your body in order to function properly. Think of it like cholesterol or carbohydrates. There are good and bad versions of both, and it's the same with fat. Bad fats can lead to you gaining weight and having issues with muscle problems and flabby stuff and a big gut, but good fat is necessary to keep your muscles flexible. Tom has to be careful with how he moves because the lack of body fat has made his body rather inflexible, and to put that into perspective, his muscles are only 40% of that of a regular human, and that's not exactly good at all. However, there is a small twist in the tale. Despite everything that has happened to Tom and the constant care he had to undertake in his body, he's not letting it keep him down. Not only is he a cyclist, but he's also competed in many places over the years, and while he does have to watch what he eats, he also gets to enjoy a lot of food that he likes. So while the condition does absolutely suck, he also makes the most out of it.
How do you enjoy any food that you like, but you have a disease, but like you have to watch each and every food that you have to eat? How do you enjoy everything that you like? Please, people, make me understand down below.
And that is to be praised. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now, or this centipede will crawl on your face when you're sleeping. Now it's time for the sweet topic. The person in these images suffers from an incredibly rare and horrifically debilitating condition. This permanent disability means her body is fundamentally unable to store fat, and fat is fundamental to our survival. But sadly, her life was a constant battle to even remain alive, and as you can imagine, she is sadly no longer with us. She fought a good fight for as long as she could, and that's always worth remembering and celebrating. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below by using the hashtag #SweetTopic. Number 19. Rachel Farouk. Now, I've already shown you a few ways that you can lose weight to the extent that you're unnaturally thin, but there's one method that I know of that you all know about, and that's the one that a lot of people struggle with because of how society judges beauty. I am, of course, talking about anorexia, and for Rachel, that was something that she had struggled with for many, many years. And there are a lot of tragedies when it comes to the tale of Rachel. For example, she used to be what many would call beautiful. She was even defined by those close to her as being the perfect girl next door. She was everything that society would say is the standard of beauty. And yet, despite all of it, and having a good life going for herself, she had succumbed to anorexia, and for the next decade, that's right, decade, she had found herself slowly wasting away until she was so thin that you could literally see her bones through her skin. Now that's not only not healthy, but it's downright criminal to do to oneself. She was so frail that she had to be put in a hospital just so she could live. Her husband had to quit his job so he could be her full-time caregiver, and he had to set up pages on GoFundMe to try and cover her medical costs.
Rachel,
Yeah.
I need your help.
However, the tragedy does not end there, because Rachel did finally decide to buck the trend and get healthy. And it's not quite that simple. You see, when you're that thin, it's not as simple as saying, okay, well, I'm going to eat again. Your body is so used to the state that you had put it through that it can actually reject the food, and that's why certain hospitals and clinics will reject the people who don't meet a certain weight, as they fear they're going to kill them with their techniques. And Rachel, well, she was under that weight requirement, and let it be a lesson. If you want to get thin, well, that's fine, but know where to draw the line, or else you might end up like this, and also likely be on death's door. Number 18. Anne Ward. The last entry was a cautionary tale, if there ever was one, but the story of Anne Ward is a bit different, because this is a straight-up warning from us here making the video. I am warning you not to be like this woman, because what she does and what she preaches is actually harmful behavior and should not be replicated under any circumstance. So what did she do to earn my ire? Well, simply put, she's a woman who is so thin, through very harmful means, that she's already a bad role model. And then she goes and preaches that you should indulge in anorexic behavior, which, as we've already seen, is a really, really bad idea.
Just the way I was. Even if certain people didn't like my height, then oh.
Now, I will admit she didn't start out this way, as she was once thin in the natural sense. She had a tall figure, being 6'2", and her weight was almost always thin because of that, which for the record is fine. If you're tall and lanky, that's okay, as long as you don't let it get to unnatural means. But after being bullied and having self-confidence issues, she began to go the route of anorexia, and she basically reveled in it all the way up to when she was on America's Next Top Model. The judges were so shocked by her extremely thin waist, which was so skinny that runway trainer Jay Alexander could nearly wrap both of his hands all the way around it. Tyra Banks actually earned some backlash for praising her size, and then Ward won the competition. While she has stopped modeling, her thoughts towards anorexia is still something to be admonished and not followed. I mean, seriously, just don't do it. Not even to be America's Next Top Model. I mean, who even cares who that is? Number 17. Loana Spangenberg. Now I'm going to swing back to the other side of the pendulum as I talk about another model. This one named Loana Spangenberg. She's from Romania, and as you can see, she's also incredibly thin.
Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Look at this. Look how thin Arala is this. Super thinnest. Super.
In fact, she's so thin around the waist that she's known as the human hourglass, which is accurate in terms of how she's shaped currently. You may be thinking, well, she's got to be anorexic, right? Well, no, she's actually not, and she has a doctor's note to prove it. In fact, she said that she eats 3 square meals a day and even eats fat-filled foods like pizza, but it never affects her body weight. So, how is something like that even possible? Well, according to her doctors, it's actually a natural condition. While they don't know exactly what causes it, they do believe that it's...
She's like another girl in my other videos that I reacted on. I think it's the 4th or 5th video. You can check it out. I think on the last part there is another girl. She's also thin like yo. She took out her ribs. But I don't know why she did this one, but that girl that I reacted on, it was on the plastic surgery. You can check it out on my channel on the other videos.
Something along the lines of a fast metabolism. Some of you may be familiar with something like this via someone you know. Someone who can eat as much as they want but never gain a pound. And then someone else you know can eat the same stuff and actually gain tons of weight. Metabolism is an interesting part of the body, and it affects people differently depending on how fast or even slow that it goes. With a 50 centimeter waist and 81 centimeter hips, Luana's body has caused a lot of people to talk, mostly negatively about her, but she insists that she's never starved herself and that she has this kind of figure when she was young. Believe it or not, she was not a model until later in life, as it was her husband who actually mentioned the idea. And in Romania, it's actually better to be a fatty because it shows your wealth and status. And so she had no reason to actually starve herself. Thus, it's just how her body turned out to be. Who knew? Number 16. Lene Marie Fossen.
Renee.
Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm really hating this pendulum swing and the stories that I'm seeing as a result of it. Seriously, it's bringing me down. And the story of Lene Marie Fossen's going to help to enforce that upon you as well. Because this is a sad lady who is now known as the face of anorexia, which is not exactly a title that anyone should want to have under any circumstance whatsoever. But the sadness doesn't end there. It only begins because her tale starts when she was just 10 years old. She had the idea to stop eating, not to be thin, but because she wanted to stop time and be a child forever. It's kind of a sweet way of wanting to stay a child, but her dream came true in a way that shows the nightmares of anorexia. Her body didn't develop as it should have because of how quickly she went down that rabbit hole, and she even used her love of photography to chronicle her declining health. That's right, she went above and beyond to show people just how much she was doing to stop time. Would you like to guess what happened to her? Yeah, she died of heart failure at the age of 33. Her body literally could not take what she was doing to it anymore. A documentary would later be produced about her life, and it haunted people given the pictures that were shown of her incredibly frail body. One could only wonder what her life would have been had she not resigned herself to that fate. Number 15. Valeria Levitin. Now sadly, we have yet another tragic tale for you, as we have yet another anorexic woman to show off via Valeria Levitin. But unlike the last entry, her bout with this crippling disease was brought on because of her friends. She went on a diet plan after she was tagged as being fat by her friends.
It is not a game. It is not a joke.
So,
it is your life.
Weighing about 64 kilograms as of then. That's right, the simple act of being called fat by her friends would send her on a mission that would lead to years of dieting until she weighed 27 kilograms.
Guys, you should check out the friends that you have like around yourself. That like, do they respect like how you are? How do you feel like, you see? And do they appreciate you the way you are? Don't go around with chilling with people that like they don't appreciate you the way you are. Like, you don't benefit anything from those people, you don't gain knowledge. You know, sometimes it's nice when you chill with people that you gain knowledge or something, you see. Mind you, she had friends, but her friends, they ended up telling her to go do the wrong things. Look, how is she now? Damn, for sure she died or something.
She lost well over half of her body weight just to fit the image that she felt her friends would want. That in and of itself is so wrong that it hurts, and that one insult, that one careless action would ensure that she would die in that thin state. Much like a certain woman I talked about before, she did try to bounce back and get out of the state that she was in, but by the time she did it, it was too late. Her body wouldn't let her gain any more weight, and so she died at a weight of 25 kilograms.
25.
The lesson here should be quite simple. 25. Don't make insults about people's weight unless you absolutely know how they're going to react. One careless insult could truly lead to a person's death, and you don't want that on your conscience. Number 14. Eugenia Cooney. There are some of you who might know the name of Eugenia Cooney, as she's an internet personality that's been around for many years and has quite the following in places like YouTube and Twitch. Now, to that end, you'll also know that Eugenia has a severe case of anorexia that has led to her being called out by her fans over the years, and at times, she's even flaunted her thin figure to the point that she was considered a role model for pro-anorexia groups. Yeah, that's actually a real thing, and her true fans didn't want her to die because of her body issues. There was even a petition to get her banned from YouTube simply because they wanted her to be able to get healthy. Her road to recovery is still ongoing. At first, she denied that she had any kind of disorder at all, and then she took some time off the online space to take care of herself. However, she would reappear to relapse and hasn't gotten any better since. Being a streamer comes with its own set of pressures, and it's clear that Eugenia has succumbed to them more than once. Number 13. Lizzie Velasquez. While still tragic, the tale of Lizzie Velasquez is not one of anorexia, but one of yet another rare health condition, one that you could argue began at birth, as she was born prematurely. She would later be diagnosed with a rare condition known as neonatal progeroid syndrome,
Wanted to fight back.
I realized that if I
making her one of only 3 people to have the condition. NPD is a rare one that makes people unable to accumulate fat and gain weight. It also makes you begin to age from the time you're born. At her peak, she weighed just under 29 kilograms and is on average around 26, and that makes her one of the skinniest women in the world. Equally as bad as that, she has no true body fat. As a result of her condition, she has to eat every 15 minutes and consume about 5,000 to 8,000 calories a day just to stay alive. And as you can see, she doesn't look healthy in the slightest. But like our first entry, she takes every day in stride and works as a motivational speaker. Despite her condition, she's alive right now at the age of 34, and she'll keep pushing to keep on living. Number 12. Jeremy Gillitzer. The tale of Jeremy Gillitzer is sadly one that is quite familiar, and yet comes with its own twists and turns. As a child, Jeremy was actually rather chubby, but then he turned his life around in the healthy way by focusing on working out.
Males have the same pressures as females as far as maybe not.
He eventually became very muscular and known for his physique, but then everything changed once he became both anorexic and bulimic. Just one of those things could devastate your body, as you have seen, but when you add in the other, well, it's probably a death sentence. And while he was alive, healthy was not something that you would call him when you looked at how frail he was. While the man did come around and tried to warn people of the dangers of the route that he had taken, he sadly passed away early at the age of 38, weighing under 30 kilograms at the time. The phrase, "there are no words," comes to mind here because you would swear that someone like him would be okay, given that he got himself in shape at one point, but it just wasn't enough, and he ended up paying the ultimate price because of it. Number 11. Christina Karyagina. Now yet another tale of anorexia awaits us in the story of Christina, but I want to note something her doctor said about her to kick it off. After being examined, her doctor noted that she could pass for a living corpse in a movie. That's how thin that she was. That's how disfigured her body was. And that's what she looked like. A living dead person. And it's not good. Not good in the slightest. In fact, because of her long bout with anorexia, not only is she only about 17 kilograms, she is literally the skinniest woman in the world. She has the weight of a 4-year-old child. And no one should be that thin unless they are a child. You seriously have to ask yourself, why? Why all these people would put themselves through such a thing? And yet, it's many times the need to look a certain way, no matter the cost. While Christina has begun getting...
You know the funny part, name? The people that tell you go do all those things, name, after doing it, they end up like telling you, why did you do it? Look how you're looking now. Go put that PBS. After putting that PBS, and it be busy falling out. They be laughing at you, commenting bad things. But they're the one told you go put it. People sometimes don't do things for people. All celebrities, please wanna impress us. Some of y'all, we don't even know you. We don't even like give up. Like, yo, I don't wanna say too much.
Treatment for her condition, it's yet another case of her body starting to fight her off simply because she didn't take care of it for so long in the first place. Number 10. Michelle Kobke. Despite it being common in the modern day, the desire to be skinny dates back many generations. Naturally, every culture that partook in these acts had different methods to try and achieve such a result. For the British, they had the brilliant idea of corsets. Elizabeth Swann is hyperventilating just thinking about it. Indeed, these could make you more thin if done properly. But for Michelle Kobke, she wanted to be so skinny that she put on a corset and never took it off. Would you like to guess what happened? That's right, her body began to deform to fit the corset, and now she has a 15-centimeter waistline. She has to eat tiny meals every day and still wears the corset in the process. And when you're literally deforming your body to try and get to where you want to be, you've probably got a problem and you need some serious help. Please don't follow her example. You know, unless you want to end up on this list and have me talking about you. Number 9. Lucia Zarata.
Lucia.
Putting our anger to the side for a moment, we're going to talk about another woman who was light in weight simply because of how she was born. She suffered from an extreme version of dwarfism, and due to that, she's only about 2 kilograms at around 1 year of life. And to further her lightness, by the time that she was fully grown, she was only about 6 kilograms, which is not a lot. This is where another twist of her life comes into play. She was so small that she actually traveled around and was used as a sideshow attraction. Her family let their home be a museum so that people could see what she was like in person, but sadly, it was during one of those adventures that her troops train was stranded in a blizzard, and she died of hypothermia. Number 8. Margarita Barbieri.
Margarita.
Remember how I said that a careless insult could lead to someone doing something terrible to their body? Well, Margarita Barbieri is another example of that. Once upon a time, she was a beautifully toned woman who wanted to be a ballet dancer, but her teacher had a nickname for her, and that was Thunder Thighs. Her hopes would be further crushed when she was told that her body type was not suitable for ballet. As such, she went on an extreme diet that would lead her to fasting for literal days, and at a max, eating 140 calories per day. As you can see, her form plummeted due to that. Thankfully, she was able to recover from her condition and lives on today. Now she's speaking out against eating disorders to ensure that other people don't mimic her mistakes. Number 7. Kagendra Thapa Magar. Now, I've already shown you an unnaturally short woman, so how about an unnaturally short man? One who only stood 67 centimeters by the time that he was 18 years old. His father would note that when he was born, you could literally fit him into the palm of your hand, and they were afraid to bathe him because of what the water might do. His height made him the shortest living mobile man on the planet, and after being discovered by the Guinness Book of World Records, he would later be used by his country for tourism, and he was more than happy to help with it. Sadly, though, his size would not allow him to live for too much longer, and he died at the age of 27. Further showing that life is not fair, even to those who don't hate the conditions they're put in. Number 6. Isabel Caro.
Isabella.
While it's true that many of the people you've seen here today had eating disorders due to their own choices, when it came to Isabel Caro, it was her mother that would lead her to her condition. Isabel was a child whose mother did not want her to grow, as in at all, to the extent that she would measure her every day and refused to allow her to go outside. Why? Because she had heard that fresh air would help children to grow. That's how restrictive her psychotic mother was. And because of this, at one point she only weighed 25 kilograms. While she would eventually go on to become a model and try to inspire those who were facing similar battles, she would end up later dying after her body had literally shut down on her. All of that pain simply because her mother was an absolute moron. And let's not forget abusive. Number 5. Karen Carpenter. Now, you might not have expected a celebrity to end up on the list, but we're heading to the music world to talk about the legendary Karen Carpenter. As part of the Carpenters, her voice would be heard all over the world, and she was legendary for her talents. But the catch, which was a problem for many artists at the time, was that the touring schedule took on an incredible take on her body.
To take a small vacation.
It's kind
to that
of
end,
funny,
she suffered from anorexia and refused.
It's kind of funny how it is. Back in the days, like tiny bodies used to be a thing, but now big nyash, I'm telling you, it's a fashion.
To both admit it or to get treated for it. She put everything into her musical career, and that would eventually lead to her dying from heart failure at the young age of 32 years old. The only good thing to come out of it was that people were so stunned by her death that there became a greater awareness of eating disorders brought up in the public eye. Number 4. Caddy and Maria Campbell. Have you ever heard the tale of how twins always do everything together? That they're going to mimic each other no matter what? Well, in the case of Caddy and Maria Campbell, that included doing bouts of anorexia that lasted over 2 decades and put both of them in the hospital. Not exactly the twin magic that most people have praised in the past. To their credit, they did want to break the streak, but it's not easy after you've done so much damage to your body. They hurt themselves so much that they couldn't walk, they could barely eat, and they both knew that even if they did recover, they still might not last all that long. And that's why you also need to stop such eating disorders where they begin, because it might be too late later on.
What the heck are those bones?
Number 3. Anna Carolina Reston. Now, as I've lightly shown you so far, the world of modeling is a potentially very wicked place, as women and men alike are subjected to cruel standards of beauty and have to endure criticisms if they're not up to snuff. For Anna Carolina Reston, she began modeling when she was very young and even won contests, despite being a little bit shorter than your typical model. She was easily repped by agencies, but one of them eventually said she was too fat for a job, and that would lead to her and her intense battle with anorexia, a fight that she would lose and eventually die from. The tragedy here is that a lot of people knew that she wasn't well, but they never stepped in to help, and she didn't help herself, and that was the end result. Number 2. Kathy Jung. Now look, another person who decided to get thin by wearing a corset. Surely nothing could happen with this, right? Well, yes, it can. And mainly, it's just my eyes being destroyed from having to look at this woman's thin waist. The irony here is that it wasn't exactly a planned thing. Kathy Jung wanted to wear a corset for her wedding, which isn't really bad. But then afterwards, she just kept on wearing the thing. And over time, as one would expect, her body changed until she became the world record holder for the smallest tight-laced waist on a living person. There are some records that just don't need to be had, all right?
Yeah.
This is definitely one of them. Number 1. Jyoti Amgi. Now, I felt that it was fitting that I didn't end the video on a tragic note regarding anorexia, but rather another case of dwarfism. Jyoti Amgi was a young girl when her mother realized that something was stopping her from growing. It would then be revealed that she did indeed have dwarfism, and she had stopped growing at 61.95 centimeters tall.
She's big like...
And her weight, just 5.4 kilograms.
But she's
Despite
one of
her
the
size,
best.
Amgi became a treasure to her family
She's
and
one of the
others,
best.
mainly because of
I
her
like her
personality
vibe.
that was quite energetic despite her smaller form.
I like
It's
her
not
vibe,
always
like,
easy
she
for
has
her,
energy.
as just about everything she
She
wears
doesn't,
is
like,
custom,
her
but
body
because of
doesn't
certain
discriminate
world
here.
records that she's accomplished and the fame that she's received, she's gotten quite comfortable with her size.
Anyway,
That's all
people,
from the realm of people who are really
People.
thin, whether they like
sikhona lana ngaphandle. Keep on watching and liking. Ningakhohlwa ukusubscribe nokulike, and you know what it is. So boy Bandile, we outside, people. Don't forget to like and share. Like share la nabangani. Share to anyone like you wanna share to, you know. Yeah, that's what's up.